No, oh, okay. Coming at your end.
I think Angela, are you ready? I think Angela will be fielding the questions on chat for those who didn't know. So if you have a question, I think Angela will be there. I see Tina Williams. I see Judy's chair, but she's not sitting in it. Yeah, I think we can go, Link Emily.
Good morning, and I will reserve the welcome for you, Link Thelma, but I wanted to say good morning to everyone. I have some invitees. I see Valerie Carey. Hello, Valerie. I know that we want to thank all of you for your donations and for joining us today. The resources that we have garnered for support for this event will go to support women in Africa, in Uganda, and help bring about their economic reciprocity. We've had a few technical difficulties. If you made a donation and it asked you for a recipient name, know that your donation will get to us. But if you have not made a donation and would like to, we definitely appreciate you. Any donation that you would give. If you get to a point in the link from the PayPal link, go ahead and enter @PB Links, and it should bring it right to us. If you have any trouble, you can contact me directly at emilyrogersfarr@gmail.com. I will put my email and phone number in the chat. If you have trouble with your donations, you can reach out directly. With that, I will turn it over to Link Thelma for the welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Welcome, everyone. I want to thank everyone for taking their time on this Sunday morning. We're still in a pandemic, hoping we're getting better with more vaccines out there, but I want to thank you all for your time. Today, the Links Peninsula Bay chapter brings to you, in collaboration with David Kibuuka, all the way from Kampala in Uganda, the motherland. He's here today to share his art with our Black History Month, with art from the past, present, and future. So have a great day and morning in store for you. I met David, a little bit about David. I met David back in the late 90s here in the San Francisco Bay Area at the Art Room through the 100 Black Men of Silicon Valley. And it's, like I said, many years ago. And we have just kept up with each other. I do have quite a bit of his artwork. His artwork is phenomenal pieces. His painting is collected actually by celebrities, sports figures, musicians, prominent business people, just a couple names: Shaq O'Neal, Lennox Lewis, Dionne Warwick, Debbie Allen. That's just a few, could keep going on. So it's with really great pleasure that David has been able to afford us his time. He's a philanthropist, and has been and is still very involved in helping with HIV, AIDS, etc. And today we are focusing on the women and girls of Uganda. I have another guest that will also follow David's wonderful art that he'll share with us, and her name is Esther Juliet. And when she comes on, she'll be talking to us about the women and girls we're servicing through our international trends and services linked Peninsula Bay. So just a little bit more about David. David was born in Uganda, East Africa, not West. You look at the map and you see where East Africa is, it's got your Kenyas and that close by. So those are his neighboring countries. David started painting at age 5. And at 15, he had already built a reputation as an exceptional artist. His talent and love of art led him to enroll in Kampala's Makerere University School of Fine Arts. But the political turmoil and strife created by then President Idi Amin forced David to flee his homeland. And some of us on here, I think quite a few will remember that turmoil in the 70s. Between 1978 and 1980, the young art students sought refuge in Kenya. Remember I said earlier, neighboring country, studying human anatomy, painting, graphic design, and illustration at art schools in the capital of Nairobi. In 1983, David moved once again, this time to North America, Canada, where he found jobs with animation companies and studios. Always looking for ways to stretch his artistic muscles. In 1988, David enrolled in the Ontario College of Art and Design in Toronto. There he studied animation and computer graphics, graduating the following year. His philanthropy has been always for good charitable organizations. Between 1990 and 93, he supported worldwide fundraising efforts by UNICEF. With that came greeting cards, and featuring 4 of his images were sold internationally to benefit Children's Foundation. Right behind me here is one of David's art pieces from 1996. So, like I said, my walls are adorned with his paintings as well. So David also worked with World Vision Canada and Artistic Canada in producing images for posters to raise money for Hope Initiative. The project provided prevention care, advocacy programs for children and adults affected by HIV/AIDS pandemic, which we all know was devastating to the world. David's art and fashion connections as well with his art. He's the architect of what he's going to show you today amongst his fine art and textile, modern batik art painting, considered one of the founding fathers. David uses signature technique he calls fragmentation to create textiles and art. The technique involves the breaking of an image into smaller geometric fields and reassembling them into images using water-based dyes, wax, and fabric. David's novel approach yields control, detail, and richness of acrylic and watercolors. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to David to tell you a little bit more about himself. David, please, it's now your turn on the floor.
Thank you so much, Thelma. I really appreciate it. Shah, and the link chapter in San Jose. I really appreciate it very much, and happy New Year, everybody there. And I'm just going to go briefly about my introduction. Just briefly, I'm the last born of 11 children. That means 4 boys and 7 girls. So a total of 11. As I left Uganda in 76 during Idi Amin's regime, and moved to Nairobi because everything was kind of messed up here by that time. But before I left, I used to do a lot of art in school. My art teacher, my late brother Henry, they really helped me a lot to really advance a lot of my work. And by the time I moved into Kenya in Nairobi in 76, I was able to sell a number of my batiks and then enroll myself into college there. And from there, I went to school as I sold my work in Nairobi City. But in 92, they had a coup attempt in Nairobi, and I moved to Canada in 1983. Toronto, Canada was pretty good, apart from being cold, but it was a nice city, decent, and I went to school there, Ontario College of Art, graduated in animation, computer graphics. But I moved towards my art more because of the cultural and traditional implication that I saw that I really wanted to preserve it. And I opened up my first gallery in Toronto in 1990. And then in 1992, moved to Santa Monica on Main Street in California. And then in 94, the earthquake again hit it, and I went back to Toronto. So that's it in a nutshell, in a way. But I want to shift more because of the time, so that I can focus on the technique, especially in the modern batik technique. What you see here behind me is the book that I've just released on Amazon. a few days, through 3 days ago. So it's available on Amazon, and I have tutorial classes on at the site as well. So people who want to see more of the work, who wants to learn the technique, that's one way they can actually interact it. It's on my Modern Batik Art Workshop. I think Mr. Thummer and Sean may give you the website link after this presentation. I'm going to start with this fabric. I think you can actually see it's a white fabric. So we work on this kind of fabric for the modern batik technique. Now, there's a lot of things we sort of usually saw as a white fabric, and anybody can do this. I've had quite a lot of workshops in Toronto, even in Harlem. I had a number of actually African American women. They were all Black women, and I did something with them, textile in Harlem. I've done some workshop in Florida, Oregon, but mostly in Toronto and around Canada, I would say. And I've been in a lot in schools too, especially youth. I'm going to start with some of the. Let me just see something here. Yes, I'm going to start with the masks. These are simple pattern. Can everybody see this? I guess so.
Yes.
This is a mask. This is a mask in a fragmentation and toning technique. So it's an African mask, but there's a lot of things. You can do it in black and white, you can do it in browns, you can do a lot of patterns in this. And I'll show you another one, a series of them actually, like this. I think you can see this. I don't know if this is clear to you there.
Yes.
So you can see what you can come up with, especially if now these could be done in a repeat pattern. So you can actually make designs out of this. Could be pillowcases, could be lampshades, could be curtains. Like all these are a series of different kind of masks you can actually get out of this technique in the modern batik. I can again show you some of these too. These are all masks. So I did a series of masks. So you could see how much composition and patterns you could do out of this. Just imagine this as your curtains, pillowcases, or a dress or a shirt, or whatever you want to, print out of it. And the good thing that today we have the digital printing, textile printing. So everything is done instantly. Now, I've done a few of these also in portraits. This is a portrait. Now, remember, this is dyes wax on fabric. So it's not acrylic, it's not watercolor, it's not oil. It's a wax dyes on fabric. But in this way, it's what we call the modern batik technique, where you can use dyes to get a feeling of painting. I've done quite a number of these portraits, and some of these I've been teaching them a lot in schools, especially high schools and universities in Toronto, where they can learn how to explore this medium. So these are different portraits done in, as you can see, like this is again a toning technique without fragmentation in the background. And you could see the lines used to break up this face. And again, this was done when I was in the Caribbean. I was in St. Kitts and Nevis. I had a workshop I was doing there. And in this piece, it's a Rasta with dreadlocks, a Rasta lady. So I was just showing some of my students that I'm going to come up with my own Rasta lady with all these dreadlocks. So this was done when I was demonstrating this technique in the Caribbean. Now, after those patterns, I mean, the plotters I've shown you, now I can show you some of the patterns which you can achieve in this technique. So these are like kind of coffee beans, but when they are arranged in this kind of way, they form a pattern. So this is a template on which I can print a whole row, or I mean, I could do 20 yards, 100 yards of this repeat pattern. The same thing applies to this pattern as well. As you can see. So, I mean, like some of these patterns, especially, for example, if people in, let's say the ladies in the States, in the African-American community, they can actually do their own patterns, learn this technique, and do these patterns, and actually make their own fabrics. So the designs could come from all over Africa. They're there from Ghana, Mali, West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, Central and North Africa. And they're already there on the internet. So all you have to do is do it in the fragmentation technique, because this is not anywhere in the world, because they have to learn to do this technique in order to produce it into textile. So they're just like, for example, these are patterns from West Africa. Anybody who's been in West Africa, these are almost like fertility dolls kind of sculptures. But again, you can capture them into this kind of technique or interpretation into the fabric. So this gives you an idea of what you can do with this technique. Again, here we have another pattern. These are maize seeds, but when they're done in this kind of pattern, they turn out like this. So, I mean, you could do almost anything that it could be birds, it could be anything. You can experiment with whatever you want in this technique. And this is a common pattern. I think a lot of people are familiar with this. It's mostly like a design of a flower. It could be a sunflower, but it was breaking it up into a more abstract or contemporary kind of format, but in the modern batik technique. So you can see the fragmentation, how it breaks up in these different colors that are used. Again, you can see it's upside down. I hope this can go any other way. So these are just like toads. So you can see I did, let's say, for example, just one toad, repeated so many times, and came up with a pattern. Now, this is not very hard to do. Anybody can do actually this, amateurs, novice, or professionals. I've done, that's what I was saying, that you could do almost anything. Look at now these kind of bugs. These are like bugs, which you can actually design in this format as well. And of course, you can change colors as you want, but you notice the fragmentation in the background. This is what sets this technique apart. Now, I've done these Nigerian kind of sculpture dolls. I think you saw the other ones in the warm colors. Now, these ones are in the green color, as you can see. You can see they're done in greens, and again, notice the fragmentation or the lines that go through the entire piece. I have again patterns like this. You can just imagine this as a head wrap or a dress. pillowcases, curtains. I mean, it's totally endless what you can do today because of the technology we have. We have these digital printing machines, which produces patterns instantly. You can see now this is a study of the pots, and done this way, they make very beautiful patterns as African pots. So you can put a lot of African designs in the pot and get a number of these things in different colors too. Okay, now there's this pattern is from Rwanda. They call them the Migongo, and I kind of assimilated it with the fragmentation because they don't have it into fragmentation, and usually they do just one. They only do this part up to here. So what I did, I connected it and made it into a repeat pattern throughout, and I chose my own colors and introducing the fragmentation, literally changing the pattern and giving it a new spin. Now, I had shown you some of those pots before, but those were in purples, and now here are some in yellows, red, and greens. And you can see the African patterns in the pots, but notice also the fragmentation background, which moves all around them. This is another pattern. I just did this randomly. It doesn't have any, I don't think it should be an African pattern, but I think it is. But I mean, it's just very simple layout of just two, three colors. That's it. And it's just in blue tones. The same thing here with the spiders. I mean, butterflies, but they're more into a very abstract format. Still another set of butterflies, again done more in the browns. So it really depends on the subject matter you want to do, because you may move into African patterns or you can move into any other patterns that you feel. And there's this pattern, it's kind of longish. So this is a very longish pattern, as you can see. You know, I could just move it like this so that you can see the figures in it. So all these are patterns that you can, they could be figures or they could be just symbols. There are a lot of African symbols. And lastly, in the modern batik technique is this guy running track and field, but it's more done with my concept, the way I felt that I wanted to show it, like this guy just blazing on a track. And you know that in we have some of the top, in fact, most of the top athletes in 100 meters, they are usually from the Black community. We hold that record totally. So this kind of shows that streak. But it's done in the modern batik technique. You can see the fragmentation, using it as a background to show the effects of speed and just my emotion. Okay, so I've gone through part of the modern batik technique, and I don't know if anybody has any questions before I go to show you my paintings in another format.
We did have one question. There was a question from Michelle Godot asking, would you frame the art or hang it in its current form?
No, I prefer it to have it framed. So basically, it's good that in North America, you have, most framers have what they call dry mount or wet mount. So if it is on fabric, it's good to put it to dry mount it so that all the creases comes out. And then you put mat board and glass to protect it from dust or water. That's the best way. That's how I frame the original batiks because it's on fabric. But when you stretch it, sometimes people don't put glass around it and dust hits it. I mean, it could be water, an accident or anything. So it always needs to be protected, just like watercolors are always behind glass. And that would be the best way to protect anything that is an original on fabric. Because you can't really wash it and then take it off the frame and wash it.
Thank you.
No, you're very much welcome. So I'm just going to move to show you some of now the paintings. And I'd wonder, talking with Thummer at one time, that most of these paintings prints, so these are various prints as well, and some that can be sold, and a percentage goes towards the women and the youth programs in Uganda as well. And that's one way of raising, I think, money that I use a lot with my work. So I'm just going to start bring the other bunch here. So you can just give me just a few minutes.
Is everyone enjoying so far?
It's amazing. Oh my gosh, everything is so incredibly beautiful. Lake Thelma, this is Lake Shaw. What makes the art batik art? Is it the wax method? I was just wondering about that.
Yes, let me have David answer it, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, if there is no wax, it's not a batik, because the batik usually originates from Asia, from Java, those Asia, especially Indonesia. Those are the people who are batik specialists. Batik came to East Africa in the 50s and also sprayed into North America as well and Europe. But then mostly it came as tie and dye, if you remember tie and dye. But then there was some traditional batik. So what I came up with is a modern component. I'm still using the same materials, but I can use works. Works can be actually used to give you different kind of shapes. Actually, I've forgotten something here, which I need to show you about some of the things. These are the large patterns which were printed on satin silk in Toronto that I did. And this is on silk. Let me just bring this whole thing. So you can see this. So this is a repeat pattern. It's a meter or a yard, but you could do many yards as you want, and you can print it on cotton, you can print it on denim, you can print it on polyester, you can print it on any material. You can even print it on, you can make shoes, because the digital printing machines can print on plastic or different kind of plastics. So you can make designers ladies bags, you can make shoes, you can make table mats, you can make lampshades. So there's a lot of things that could come out of today, especially with the digital printers. So you don't have to do silk screen anymore because it takes so long to pull all these colors. But with digital printing, I think I did show you these templates of this design. Now here's the design done on satin silk. And this is just a meter, and you can see it's a repeat pattern all the way through. And you can change colors in Photoshop if you want. At the end of your stuff, I'll show you some of this. You can see this one is a piece of done in masks. These are masks. You can see they are African masks in a repeat pattern on satin silk. But the same, now notice these masks, because I'm going to show you another copy of it with the background where it's white. Now the background here is black. So you can actually shift colors to what you really want to create and come up with this one with a white background. Let me see. Yeah, this should be it. So you can see now this in a white background. Now this particular design was designed by a 16 years old boy. I've done a class with we have our queen in Uganda, and this is the traditional queen of Baganda tribe in Uganda. And she runs a youth organization, and some of the youth enrolled into that in my workshops. And one of the youth came up with this design, templates, which I took back to Toronto and printed 5 meters on certain cell, and a dress was made out for the queen. So it was really very exciting to see what her youth can actually do with the technique. Okay, is there any other question before I shift to the other artwork? We still have time. Okay, so
I think there
I'll
were a couple.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
I think there are questions. Hi, this is Link Croatia. There were a couple questions in the chat related to how we might purchase some of the art or some of the cloth. Is there a particular website that you recommend, especially to make sure that the funds can go both? Go ahead.
Okay, to buy the fabric or the piece, the certain artwork I'm going to show you, because that's available. And I can deal through with Thama.
Okay.
And I can always FedEx spread everything into San Jose.
Oh,
that's
perfect.
not a problem. We have FedEx here in Uganda. So with the other one, they have to be printed.
Ah, okay.
But one of the things I was talking to Thama was that as you know, COVID goes down and we all get vaccinated and we try to go back to our normal life, is that I always go to Toronto in summer during June, July, August, and September to do summer camps. For a lot of youth are in summer holidays, and that's one way I can teach them. And I can easily come into the States because North America is North America, and I can travel in and out anytime. And we can arrange workshops where I can come into San Jose, or it would be Florida, any of your members, and they can be organized and they can learn this technique. It's a 2 days workshop, and they can produce templates, and those templates can be digitized, and then they can go to a number of printing companies in North America, which you have a lot in the States. And then you can print out your material, your own patterns, your own colors, your own choice. Yeah, because you can have something where you can go on a function and nobody has that pattern anywhere because you've done it exclusively for yourself, unless you sell the copyrights to your pattern. But you can have a lot of dress. Yeah, you can have a lot of dresses and colors you've chosen, and nobody has it.
Wow.
And that's the ability what now in the 21st century, digital printing gives us. It gives us that power now to produce our own merchandise in terms of fabrics or home accessories like upholsteries, pillowcases, and cushions, whatever you want to do, table mats.
Wow.
So let me just, because of the time, let me just move to the artwork and show you some of these. Now, this is already the one you've seen on the book cover. By the way, this is a digital, and it's an ebook. So it's not a hard copy or paperback. You can download it for $9.99 from Amazon. It's on Kindle. You can use it on your template, computer, whatever. It's an ebook. I thought it was much easier for people to do that than shipping it all around. So this is one of the pieces. Is that clear for everybody? Unless it's centralized. So this
Yes.
is called what this is a water carrier. And this is how it looks in its full production. And this is done from the modern batik technique, as you can see the fragmentation in the background. And what I have here is, this is a pencil, this is pencil and ink. It's called Time Carrier. So it has a story behind this piece, is why I named it Time Carrier. As you can see, the woman is carrying water pot, but his body is turning into almost a cyborg, like a robot, defining time. Women have been carrying water in Africa, but not just in Africa, India, South America, for I think millennia, and they've moved into the 21st century. So that's why I named it Time Carriers. So they've carried time on their head, carrying water through different timelines. And that's why I named it Time Carrier.
David, could you lift it up a little bit higher so we could see the full length? Okay, beautiful. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. This is a Maasai piece called The Warrior. And it's an oil painting. The original was an oil painting. This is a print. And it's a 16 by 20. And it's in this kind of format. These are very easy to ship. Just roll it in a tube and it gets there. So this is a warrior print of the Maasai tribe in Kenya. This is a Maasai lady. The original medium was oil on canvas. But this is a print of it. All these are printed on canvas. Because these days I hardly print on paper anymore. Canvas is very easy to handle. It doesn't crease. It's more durable and much better. I mean, paper was good, but canvas definitely in the 21st century we all moved to canvas. So this is of a Maasai lady. The Maasais are more found in Kenya and Tanzania. The same thing with the Maasai warriors. Now the next one is called Twin Sisters. These are two sisters. Again, they're Maasais in Kenya. And the Maasais are found in the Rift Valley. They are mostly in the Rift Valley, which goes through from Kenya and right into Tanzania. That's where you find the Maasai tribe. They use a lot of beads, lots of them. And this is a modern batik technique. Now, as you can see the fragmentation in the background. It's called Nakiinji, and it's printed on canvas. So these are all printed on canvas. What I'm showing you, because I've switched from the fabric original batiks to these prints, which are printed on the canvas. Again, this is a 16 by 20. And this one is called touchscreen. Now, there is a funny mention to this, because when I got back after 40 years in Canada, when I came back to Uganda, and I was asking a lot of women, I said, wow, women here have got really round bats. And they said, well, that's the African way. So as you can see, these women definitely have bats. And all Black women, I think, even in the States, this is what a lot of women are proud of. It's that developed bat. So this is called touch screen. Here I have a Nigerian harpist. It's called a harpist or Nigerian harpist. And again, it's a 16 by 20. It could come in a larger size, but I always prefer the 16 by 20 unless because of the format is very different. But there are some which you see which are 20 by 30. This is another modern batik technique print called the basket weaver. Now, basket is very, very pronounced in Africa, all the way from West Africa, Central Africa, all the way to South Africa. Women do a lot of baskets. Now, this is a piece, it's a modern batik technique, but with no fragmentation. It's just a toning technique. It's called the orchestra. You could see the guy playing the flute, the drum, and the harp. And I termed it the orchestra. Now, this particular one is called in Loving Arms. You can see this young boy or a girl in the comfort of her mom, and it's called In Loving Arms. Now, this is a pencil. I love pencils, and when I do it, I really have fun. This is called rebirth. This lady is coming out of the pot after being trapped there for thousands of years, and she managed to put off the lid of the pot, and you could see she's oozing out of the pot, and I named it rebirth because she's just being reborn. This is a lady guitarist, and the title is Royal Guitarist. Again, we see very few women playing guitars, but it doesn't mean that women can't play guitars. So this is something that I did, and a lot of people like it because very few people have such painting in their homes of a woman playing guitar, but she's in a traditional outfit. You can see the head wrap and everything. And again, I like a lot of mothers. I do a lot of mothers and child a lot because I think the influence is from my 7 sisters. So I have done a lot of mother and child because I used to see a lot of my sisters breastfeeding, taking care of the kids all the time. Now, this one is the fruit carrier. Again, done in a modern batik technique. Now, the other thing is that all these prints are hand painted. So they are hand painted and each is so different from the other print. I don't want them to look the same. So I hand paint them just to give them that extra coloring with acrylics. So these are the 20 by 30 prints. This is the harpists, 3 guys playing the harp. This is mostly from West Africa. So my art includes a lot of themes, not just from East Africa, but randomly all over Africa. This is the way we wear. It has a story behind it. This is the way in Africa people, we used to wear like this before the colonists came and say this was primitive and put us in clothes. But now I see that in Western Europe and Canada are running to a number of nudist camps. So they've gone back to nudist camp when we had it as a way of life. And look at the beauty of the pots, the beads, just the dignity of the African culture as we wear. That's why it is titled The Way We Wear. This is rushing home. This is a group of women coming from the market with a lot of fruits and water, and they're rushing home. The title is Rushing Home. These are 20 by 30, so they're no longer 16 by 20, but it can come in 16 by 20 as well. And this is also hand painted. And I have Pure Innocence. This is a piece I did of our 4 girls with the hats behind it, right deep in the village. Again, way back, because nowadays you can hardly see this couch anymore. All these people are carrying cell phones and they're in clothes. So it's really changed a lot. Again, a group of women carrying water. So this is called water carriers. I don't know if some summer or whatever, if you're familiar with this popular piece, it's called Togetherness. Some mother
I have that
with a
piece, yeah.
newborn baby. Exactly. So this is done in a modern batik technique. You can see the fragmentation behind it. This comes in a 20 by 30 on canvas and is hand painted. This is some of the Ankole cattle. We have cows with these long horns. So these cows actually, they're only in western part of Uganda with these huge horns. And they're called the Ankole cattle. Least but not last, this is probably the last one. It's called the market scene, which is the barter. These are, you know, a traditional African market scene. These people, as you can see, they're in the market, buying fruits everywhere. And this is still there to this day. You find a lot of market scenes in all of Africa, maybe India, South America. They're still going on. I think you guys in North America, we have supermarkets. That's where everything has moved. But in Africa, this is very, very normal. I see it every day. And I buy all my fresh organic fruits from these ladies all the time. So that ends my presentation of the African paintings. And I don't know how much minutes I've gone through used. I think I was given about 45 minutes for this thing. And I don't know how many minutes I have left. I've probably got 10 minutes. And then I think Esther Namiala will then come in to do her presentation.
Right.
And if you have any questions, yeah.
Do you have any questions, Angela? I think there's some questions. Go ahead, everyone, whoever's.
There's a question from Lisa Gaucher wanting to know how long does it take typically take to create a design or painting?
A design would take about, because in the design, I have the beginners class, which everybody has to go through its comparator because people don't know how to apply wax, dyes on fabric. Everybody can use acrylic paints or watercolor. Everybody does that. But usually I do my classes in 2 days, which means 6 hours till it's 12 hours. But when we do the beginners, there's beginners, intermediate, advanced, and masters. But usually people do a lot of work in the beginners class. And that part template, which you can do, that's the key thing because the pattern is put into a repeat format. So it's a repeat pattern once it gets on the press. So they just graphically just repeat it. And you can do meters and meters or yards and yards of it.
Can I ask a follow-up question? The question is also for you. Typically, how long would it take for you to create your design and your paintings? What's the process and timing?
Okay, the paintings depends, especially if they are oils, acrylics, or pencil drawing. It may take me a week, it may take me 2 weeks, depending on the size. Especially the oils don't dry right away, so you can't rush them. Acrylics are very easy to use, and it depends on how detailed it is. Some of mine are contemporary, and they're not very detailed. Some are detailed. Now, in terms of the modern batik is pretty fast in its own way because the dye is dry and you wax. So there's this repetition of dry, wax, dry, wax, dry, wax each color has. And then you have to remove the wax, iron it out with a hot flat iron, and then ink it. So that is a very, very fast, rapid production. And that's why it's easy for me to teach because people don't have to know so much. It's the technique which is the key. Because I mean, I've had, that's why I teach it to seniors. Seniors love it because it's very therapeutic, very therapeutic. Then adults, then youth, and some from, let's say, grade 7 to grade 8. I don't go below grade 4 because of the hot wax we use. Some of these kids can play around and burn themselves.
Thank you. We have another question from Tina Jones Williams and wanting to know what size is the market scene?
The market scene is in a 20 by 30 inches. Those are inches.
All right, thank you. And we have a question from Valerie Carey, wanting to know who are your biggest influences and who do you look for guidance or inspiration?
My biggest influence definitely was my late brother Henry, my dad, my mom, because they knew that I was an artist when I started using charcoal on the walls. And of course, I got spanked quite a lot until my brother said, well, buy him a sketchbook. And that's where the influence came from. And he was also a mentor because he was very, very good. He was the first Ugandan in 1962 to head the Uganda television art department. So he had to be that good. And of course, I'm a more of a spiritual person. I always look towards my ancestors before time that inspire me because of the culture narrative in it. I mean, the drums, the spirits of our ancestors. So that's a very good inspiration for me to back it up, just as you see a lot of my warriors, musicians, it goes back to the cultural roots. And I hold on to that very dearly.
Thank you. And we have another question related to purchasing. From Benita, the designs that were presented today, can they be found on your website for us to select from?
Yes, definitely. And Summer has the website name. It's zimbecollectionsinteriors.com, but she will probably pass it to you. That is something that I think could be used with other members of Links to raise money because that percentage can go towards the funding of some of the programs in Uganda. especially the youth and some of the senior ladies. And I think as Ether is going to go through that so that we can see how this thing can be tied in.
Thank you. And we have one more question from Karen McGee, wanting to know the size of the Maasai warrior painting.
The Maasai warrior painting comes in two sizes. Let me see here. It comes in a 16 by 20 and 18. This one comes, this particular one, right? I think this is the one.
Yes. Yes,
This
that's
comes,
correct.
yeah, this comes, this is a 16 by 20, but there's another one which is 18 by 30. No, 20 by around 20 by 30.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
slightly bigger. Yeah, slightly bigger than this.
Karen, you lived in Kenya for a while, didn't you?
Yeah, I was in
No,
Kenya for.
I'm
Yeah, I was in,
West African.
Oh, it was West Africa. Okay.
But I'm just amazed that there's such universality in the artwork, but I didn't ever see any batik work in West Africa when I was visiting here. So it sounds like this is something.
no, they're not really. Yeah, they're more into mud cloth. They do a lot of mud cloth.
Yeah.
Those kind of pattern, the kente, the kitenjis, and the kentis. But in East Africa, you find a lot of batik, even in South Africa, but it's mostly common in East Africa. But usually what they do in East Africa is a lot of traditional batik in East Africa. Mine is a component that I added on with my late brother, and I moved with it to Toronto, to Canada, and then I found that nobody was doing it. Everybody was into traditional pieces that they were doing in Asia. So this is a new twist to batik using wax and dyes.
We really appreciate your creativity. It's just amazing. And
Thank
maybe I have to say I don't have a lot of questions because I'm in awe. I'm just enjoying it.
Thank you. But when you visit the website, you will see more of that. And by all means, please do. I'm going to, I think if there's any more questions, I'm going to let Lady Ether Namialo come and do her presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Unless Thelma wants to.
Thank you so much.
Unless Thelma wants to.
Yeah,
You're
I'll
very
just.
much welcome.
Thank you. Let me just introduce Esther Juliet to everyone. And she's going to speak regarding what us, the International Trends and Services Facet Group, has been focused on and raising donations, as well as how we're going to be able to support the girls. There's an organization that was shared with another link sister, Tamara, and it's fascinating. I am in contact with them, and when this is over, they and I will work steadily getting some support, and it's called Days for Girls. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Esther to speak to us about women and girls in the rural areas and where our support is very much needed. And I wanted to tell us the real story that she shared with me that left me in tears, and know after hearing that just how much passion that I had, and know that we can support these girls. They're like us, but they're in a rural part and they don't get necessarily what is given in the urban. So with that, Esther, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Thelma. Hello, everyone. My name is Namialo Juliet Esther. I'm from Kampala, Uganda, East Africa. And like Thelma just said, I'm going to talk about empowering the girls, mainly the adolescent girls in Uganda, and also empowering the women in menopause. So, I'll begin with the girl children where we are targeting mainly adolescent girls, that is to say 11 years to 16 years in primary school. I'm not sure the equivalent of primary school that side in the US, but in Uganda, we call it primary school. It basically runs from 6 years to about 12 years. But because our target group are mainly girls in the rural areas, some of them go to school late. So even when, for us in urban areas, we end at 12 years in primary school, some of these girls go up to 16 years because of the challenges they face that side. So from the research I made, statistics show that over 900 girls join primary school in primary one, that is at the age of 6 years on average in every district, but only 50 out of the 900 make it to the end of primary level. And this is because of some challenges they face along the way, among which is lack of knowledge and sensitization on reproductive health and hygiene, hence dropping out of school for fear of embarrassment. I'll give you an example in that regard. In Luweero district, one of the areas in central Uganda, the adolescent girls who just squat on the pit latrine. I'm not sure you know what a pit latrine is. We still use it. It's like a toilet, but this is not a flush toilet. So the girls, the adolescent girls in their menstruation squat on the small holes in the pit latrine with the intention of draining out all the blood. I'm sorry, but I have no better word to use. With the hope of draining out all the blood before they can go back to class. So they sit there for several hours, but the blood is still not drained out. This is all because they do not have menstrual pads, and they also do not know what to do during that time. As a result, some stain their uniform, some they get embarrassed and they do not go back to school. It's a main cause for children, for the girl children dropping out of school. Another challenge is some of these girls move long distances to school, especially the ones who are in day school. And as such, some lose interest, and worse still, some are raped on the way to school. Well, the latter challenge, I'm not sure we can address now, but what I'm sure of, I know that you can make an intervention in the menstrual hygiene and menstrual health through sensitizing them and providing them with the necessary wear. One of the interventions I would suggest that we provide reusable or washable sanitary towels, because that is sustainable in the long run. These last over 2 to 3 years. So if they can afford to wash and keep reusing for over 2 to 3 years, because that is the shelf life of the reusable pads. Unlike these other pads that maybe we know, or the ones that we use in the urban centers, because we cannot afford to keep supplying them with those pads every other month. It might not be sustainable in the long run. So I have looked at, with a recommendation, I have looked at the pads made from DFG, that is Day for Girl, and they have very good kits. Their kits vary according to the content. They have panties, because some of these girls do not have panties. I'm not sure if you call them panties or knickers. So their kits, the menstrual kits, have the panties, they have the reusable pads, a washcloth, some soap, and then they also come with a manual. It depends on the content, like how much is in the kit. They vary between 25,000 per kit, which goes to every child, to 45,000, that is Uganda shillings. That is the equivalent in dollars is about $7 to about $12. Also, the variance comes in the whether it's heavy flow kit or not. So the heavy flow kit is the one for 45,000 Uganda shillings, which is about $12 US. Another intervention that we need to make in this regard is to to sensitize the girls together with the boys on reproductive health and hygiene. From the schools I talk to, it's better that we talk to the boys together with the girls, because the boys bully the girls, especially during that time. So it's better that we sensitize the boys also, so that they know this is a normal process and the girls have to go through it. So they should support them in the process. One of the target areas that I saw much need is like 2 districts in northern Uganda. That is Apache and Kwania. I'm not sure you're familiar with that. Then other 2 districts where there is so much need, that is in Kalangala. Those are island areas in central Uganda, and they are densely populated, and there is a very high dropout of girl children from school. Another district would be Luwero district. That is where I had the case study where the girls caught on the pit latrines to drain out all the blood. That is still in central Uganda. Those would be the target areas or the pilot studies as we begin this project. Important to note, this was not a virgin area. Some people have tried to intervene. Some communities have tried to intervene. Even some NGOs have tried to provide what they can, but there is still need in that area. So before I go to the women in menopause, I do not know if you have any questions in that regard.
Are there
I have
any
a question. Is there any chance that the moms of the daughters talk with them about their experiences with menstruation?
From the research, most moms do not. The girls do not disclose to their mothers. They fear. Actually, some of the girls I talked with, they thought they had sinned or they had done something wrong, that is why blood was coming out of them. They did not know. Unfortunately, it's one of the syllabus on the Uganda education system, we cover reproductive health, though not at length, but that is in primary 6. So some of these girls go through that stage before they reach the syllabus. So they do not know what to do with themselves. They fear to tell anybody. So they keep hiding as much as they can. It's also unfortunate because as they enter the reproductive health, some actually end up messing up. They end up being pregnant because they do not know that they've reached a stage where they can now conceive. And as a result, they still drop out of school.
I have a question. This is Emily. How can we support your efforts to get reusable kits, pads and kits to the girls specifically?
Emily, that's what we'll be working with on our committee with the Days for Girls. So once this is over, I'll have another meeting and we'll be talking about Days for Girls. I mentioned it earlier, but you probably didn't hear it. Yes. So we have a plan in place with her, with Esther. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your work with these young women.
I had a question. Is there any like broader scale like public relations campaign or something where would the government be open to talking more broadly, so it wasn't such a secret? Just, I'm not really sure how to explain it, but if there was some sort of public awareness or education campaign, to your point, for both the men or the boys and the young girls, so that instead of the young girls being afraid to talk about it, it was already discussed, by the government or, on billboards, something like that.
Okay, the intervention would be adverts, but again, most of the girls are in rural areas. They do not have television sets to watch, like to watch TV. Well, maybe we can play some adverts on radios. They may have access to radios because much as they do not have electricity, but they use battery powered radios. So that could be one of the interventions. But we thought maybe the point would be driven home if we talk to these boys in their respective schools, and
Right.
yeah, but we could also consider radio adverts. Thank you for that suggestion.
And I just would echo what everyone else has said. Just thank you so much for educating us. I know you have more to say, but thank you so much for sharing.
Any other question in that regard?
I think I just want to add to what was just said, that we take so many things for granted in our country. And so you're really giving us an excellent education about things that we should not take for granted, and that young women, especially across the world, and I know in your area there, they really do need the support that we as women have been, all of us can talk about the stories of when we were educated about menstruation. Probably it was in school, and but that doesn't seem that really happens from your description. So thank you for educating us.
Okay, thank you for giving me the opportunity. So moving on to the women in menopause.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
I'm just kind of curious. Have you done any research on what the cost might be to send a crate of sanitary product to you from the States, or is that something you'll be working on, Link Delma?
Yes, that is what I'll be working on with Days for Girls. Yes. That's exactly right. What we'll be working on, Link Evelyn. I know you would be interested in the shipment there for some reason, but yes, we will be working on that in getting the supplies and the cost and that. That's where the donation helps us out, that we can support this. So yes, Link Evelyn, great question.
Okay, like though I know the for Girl has a branch in Uganda. So I don't know what would be cheaper, either getting them from the branch this side or getting them from that side.
Yeah, apparently they're putting me in touch with the site, with the group there, but we do need to still donate so they can provide the needed products to them. Yeah, they're there, but they need us. They rely on people like us to make sure that works.
Okay, thank you for that. So can I go ahead with the women in menopause?
Yes, please do.
So target is empowering and sensitizing women in menopause, especially about the challenges that come with menopause and how best to deal with them. This is still a virgin area with much needed intervention in Uganda, with much needed intervention. Sorry, but repetition is for emphasis. From my research, I have realized that most women in Uganda know very little or even nothing at all about menopause. And worse still, for some it comes much earlier than expected, some as early as 39 years. Menopause causes both physical and emotional distress, and for some, the effects are far-reaching, like depression, anxiety attacks, high blood pressure, inexplainable weight gain, social issues like marriage breakdown. One of the ladies I talked to got her menopause at 39 years, and she struggled. She did not know, because of the age, she did not think it was menopause. Good enough, she was coming from a privileged place. She could afford to do a hormonal profile test, which costs a bit of money in Uganda. And that is when it was confirmed that she was going through menopause. However, she was also afraid to talk about it. Even when she was educated and more empowered, well, she tried, I think, to go to another country because she could afford that, just to get some help. Though she says she still did not get much help. But again, most of these women do not even come from privileged places. And as such, they do not even want to talk about menopause. They think their colleagues will laugh at them. Their husbands are not supportive, the family is not supportive, so some die silently. However, in most cases, women are caught unaware when signs and symptoms of menopause descend on them, causing panic, suspicions. Some even think it's witchcraft. That is actually something of major concern in Africa. Like, even when someone fails to give birth at 39 years, sometimes menopause has set in, but some attempted to think it's witchcraft. Not sure you know what witchcraft is, or like it's black magic or something. So there is a lot of sensitization that needs to be done. The research I made was mainly amongst women in Mothers Union. Mothers Union is part of the Anglican Church. It's Christian-based, where women meet just to empower families and the marriage institution. And there, like most of the women there are between the ages of 35 years to 60 years. Some of them fall within the menopause age. So some of the gaps I have seen that need intervention, there isn't much awareness and intervention in this area of menopause, unlike the reproductive health and hygiene for the adolescent girls. Like I said, for the other area, there's been some intervention from community. Some people, like even communities, some NGOs have tried to help the girls. Well, there is still help needed, but at least something has been done. But in this area of menopause, no one, like from my research, no one has tried. Some do not even think their menopause is a problem. Another gap is it is still majorly a private and discreet topic. Like I said, some women think it's a curse, some think it's witchcraft, so they would rather keep quiet about it than disclose. It's also very scant, there is also very scant and scattered information on menopause in Uganda, at least. Some of the women and majority of the women are not educated, unfortunately. They do not even know that maybe they can go to Google and just get some of this information. Of course, a few are privileged and they know they can find some of this information to help. Another gap is male partners are also ignorant about menopause and they joke about it without compassionate understanding. So even with all the causes that come with menopause, when I was talking to some of the ladies, some of them lose sexual appetite, but then the men would never understand. All they look at is marrying a younger girl. So they do not look at helping their women go through this, perhaps because they do not know or they do not even have the information. So another gap is the menopause myths and misconceptions. Everyone has a myth and misconception, including the witchcraft and all that. So that also is a major gap. So from my research, the suggested or possible interventions include information sharing initiated in group meetings, like Mothers Union, because of the target group. So we could begin with smaller, because Mothers Union is a countrywide. I don't know if it's worldwide, but I know it's all over Uganda. It reaches the grassroots in small communities. So it would be an easier way of reaching these women, because given that Mothers Union already targets family and marriage, but for the ladies, it would be an easier way of these women confiding in their leaders or even their friends if someone sensitizes them as a group. Another intervention would be internal group support, maybe having a menopause buddy, like a friend I would call and tell about anxiety attacks. So, but again, that would all begin from maybe Mothers Union, knowing who else is going through what I'm going through. How can we help each other? Then breaking cultural perception, that is to say, handling the myths and misconceptions. Designing and distributing information, communication, and education tools for the facilitators, like the people who are going to do the sensitization, designing tools, and then maybe manuals they can give out to the women and how to intervene. Then access to medical services, especially for the women who are not sure it's even menopause. It could be something else, especially those who get it at an earlier stage than anticipated. Maybe we could support those, but again, the only test they can do to confirm that I know from my research, you could maybe recommend something else, is the hormonal profile test. That from my research, that costs about 250,000 Uganda shillings to 300,000. That is about $67 to $81, depending on which hospital you go to. Then the nutrition and physical support. This would also mean sensitizing the women to use the readily available herbs, because some women have confessed that some of the herbs help with the challenges that come with menopause. Let me say the lack of sexual appetite, balancing the hormones and all. So some women do not know, whereas some women have the information. So by sharing the information, we could tell them about the available herbs that are readily available that they can use to curb the problem. I've also thought of a menopause kit, just like the kit for the adolescent girls. But with a menopause kit, I am not sure what would be contained in this kit. It was just a suggestion, but I was still struggling to find out how much or what content it would be. Then sensitizing the men about menopause so that they can support their women. This I anticipate, and all women anticipate, that is going to be culturally challenging, especially because of the ego men have. But I'm sure some will cooperate, so it won't be all in vain. Yeah, that is all I have for the women in menopause. I don't know if you have any questions.
Wow.
This is Emily. I wrote in the chat that I'm currently in menopause. I'm 49 years old. I'll be 50 this year. And I remember my mother went through menopause very early. And even here in the United States, there was such ignorance around how to manage that. She got very little support and very little help. So I guess I'm sharing that even here, there's a huge amount of ignorance around that transition in life. And I wrote in the chat, and it may sound like a bit of a joke, but even honestly, just not having my mother here with me to help me through my challenges and changing, it feels like witchcraft. I mean, like one day I'm totally happy and the next day I'm just irritated and I can't tell you why. It's almost like returning to when you were a little girl, when you first started your menstrual cycles and you weren't sure what was going on and you couldn't control your emotions. It's a challenge. I don't know what to tell you to put into a kit other than just positive affirmations would be a great place to start. And I
Yeah,
love the idea of educating the men, because it's difficult to get the support from them because they don't get it either. They just, all of a sudden your wife is not nice anymore.
Emily, there are a lot of books out there, etc. And the WHO organization does have
Yeah,
pamphlets that we would be supporting them with. So
that'd
I
be
have
great.
done quite a bit of look into this, and I have access to actually a couple of OBGYNs who are Black who are willing to support this. So person who've been through it, pre, in it, post, this is a passionate area for me as well. So they will be getting the support. And I am familiar with the Mothers Union. I am of American from England, and my grandmother was the Mothers Union. And they do a phenomenal job from very early age. She's right, from the 30s right through till they're later in life. They're there, they call them Mothers Union. They're there as the mothers that really take care of the villages. They're always there to lend a hand to the young. And regarding the men, that's a worldwide thing. I think even here in the US, there's men that don't understand today what menopause is and think their wives are not quite right. Remember, at one point in history, menopausal women were put into mental institution. They were considered crazy and all of that. So if you go back in history, that happened, royal families all the way back, but it was simply women were going through menopause, but men didn't understand. They just thought she was having a nervous breakdown.
Thank you, Julia. Question here.
Hi, Julie. My name is Shalandra. So you seem to be very knowledgeable. Hi. You seem to be very knowledgeable. Where did you learn so much about this topic?
I have conducted some research
Uh-huh.
in in regard to the topics, though maybe I didn't introduce myself quite well. I am a lawyer by profession.
Okay.
So much as I recognize that we have these problems in society, I grew up in the urban areas. I would say I come from a little bit of privileged place. So I may not have gone through all that, and I'm not yet in the menopause age, but I was able to do the research. So this is how I was able to get this information, because I needed to give you information from an informed point of view. It could not be off the internet or something. That is why I had to visit some of the women in menopause, and I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
And I just want to add, as part of our ongoing effort in our Peninsula Bay Links, this is something that we can do research on as far as what would be a great kit to have that we could maybe contribute towards, or have in some way have something created so that the women could get the benefit. And I'm like Emily, I'm not sure exactly what would be in the kit, but we just have to put on our thinking caps and see what some of our organizations that talk about menopause, what they would recommend. And then, we just have to continue to communicate about that. But you're really educating us. It's just so appreciated.
I appreciate you too.
Thank you. Thank
I think,
you.
Angela, do you have any questions?
There are no more questions in the chat. If anyone has an additional question, if you could please put it in the chat. But so far we are done with questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity, and we shall appreciate an intervention. I look forward to working with you.
Yes, thank you. Sorry that we always talk at odd hours of the day and night. It's night for them there in Uganda.
It's okay. We can. It's a one-off. We can really compromise. It's okay. It's a one-off. It's not an everyday thing.
Right. So
I'm sure you also sacrifice maybe be somewhere, but for all of us to happen at that time, so it's really okay.
Thank you. Well, I think we came right up to the top of our hour, guys. Right, Link Shaw?
Absolutely. We're perfect right at the half hour with 1 minute to close out, Link Thelma.
Yes, this is great. Well, my closeout, oh my gosh. I hope this meant what I wanted it to mean to everyone. Sharing information, learning, as well as where can we help and support our sisters in the motherland. We are very fortunate. We're away from that many years ago, but to know that we're still connected and there's help needed. I hope everyone who attended this event found it the way I hoped it would. This is an ongoing for Peninsula Bay Links. This is not just an event today. Let's throw it in. This is not. As you can tell, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of support. So for those who missed today, please share it out in the community. I'd love to do another follow-up to this. Like David said, later in the summer, if we out of COVID and everyone is safer to move around, where he can come and we meet one-on-one. But in the meantime, I want to thank them both for their time to teach us all about what they have knowledge of. And like Esther said, she is a lawyer, and so therefore very educated, knows how to do good research. So any information we get is the real deal. It's not just an internet search and came up with it. She spent a lot of time going to the villages and speaking to get this information. And with technology challenges in some of those areas, I want to thank her again for David introduced us and we kicked it off right away. But this is an ongoing relationship. on behalf of the Peninsula Bay chapter, again, we want to thank you. If Madam President is on, I'd like for her to close us out. And for those who attended, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to us. Madam President, Pat Doyle, are you on and muted? Unmuted?
So I just wanted to commend the committee on such an incredible job. This was very, very wonderful, wonderfully presented. All the information that was presented was something that all of us were interested in. We're all art uh, fiends here. So it was very well presented, and I just have to commend the facet and particularly the chairs. It was very well researched, very well presented, and very interesting. And everyone stayed online during this whole process. So job well done.
Thank you. Phenomenal committee. On the committee, it's Emily Farr. There's Angela Alton, Lisa, I'm going to mess her name up, Gatier, right, Lisa? And also Benita Parker, Karen McGee, and Shawanda is like our adopted member. She came and helped us do a dry run and everything. So we were prepared. We're working in different time zones. They're 11 hours ahead. So again, appreciate them for taking the time to speak to each and every one of us here today. And David, if we could just have both of you back on the screen as we say our goodbye.
Okay.
You haven't gotten away yet. If he could,
Yeah,
David,
it's been a pleasure, and I'm moving in here.
Yeah,
well, she's got on this headroom.
Yeah.
She's got on the headroom, so she's taller than me now.
Okay, David.
The headgear.
Yeah. Thank you again, David. We've been friends for a long time, and I've always found you to be the professional you are, and you delivered, and we'll do our best to support your philanthropy needs right there in East Africa of Uganda as we continue. And I know at some point everyone's looking forward to meeting you both personally, so we will work on that.
Thank you so much. You're very much welcome.
Thank you very much for
Thanks,
we appreciate it.
Okay, great. If anyone have any follow-up questions, inundate me with your emails. I'm ready for them.
Hey, Thelma, this is Shaw. Congratulations to the International Trends and Services Committee and your awesome presenters. I just want to note that this is being recorded, so we will be making it available for you to share out in the community. And again, congratulations on a phenomenal symposium today.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I want everyone to now go and enjoy the rest of their Sunday afternoon. And to David and to Esther, enjoy your night. Have a wonderful night's sleep.
Yes.
And Thelma, may I say, could we share out the website for David? Yes, that would be great to do it one more time.
I'll be doing it again very shortly.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay.
there are two websites.
Websites,
Zimbe Interiors for the artwork, and then the Modern Batik Technique, Modern Batik Art Workshops.
Yes, I'll send both out. Great.
Okay.
Thank you all.